Hi guys, and welcome to the third night of the Intentional Tech Workshop. Tonight we're going to jump into differentiation and assessment and how technology in the K2 classroom can really amplify our opportunities to do so and give us more authentic data than without technology. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. We're diving into myth number 5. We've been going over a series of myths over the past couple of live videos, and these myths are all surrounding technology integration. If you're new here, I am an ed tech advocate. I have my master's in educational technology, and I have been using it with my first graders for over 8 years now on a daily basis. But I am a limited to no screen time parent because I know the research behind what recreational technology can do to our little developing minds. So my approach to technology and the way that I help debunk these myths is a very balanced approach. So going into that, this myth is the screen time exposure is not worth it. Now, there is a lot of research surrounding screen time, and a lot of it is very valid. But when technology in the classroom is implemented appropriately, screen time should not be a worry because you should not be app babysitting or having your students on apps the whole time and their face in the screens. You'll see it's simply a tool or a medium in which they use to demonstrate their learning. And so the opportunities to differentiate and extend for each individual student are endless when we incorporate technology. So taking appropriate integration and amount of screen time into consideration, as well as the opportunity it provides, it is priceless. So we're going to jump into differentiation. Of course, there are a ton of ways to differentiate using technology. I'm going to highlight just a couple that I find really beneficial. And then if you want to follow along with my social media, I'll be making little clips over the next couple of weeks, diving into some more of those accommodations and ways that we can differentiate. So TEquity creates access and opportunity for all students. So TEquity is not all students having technology at home. TEquity is the idea that we are able to provide experiences for our students outside of the four walls of the classroom that would not be available otherwise. So if the students are living in the middle of the United States and don't have a beach nearby, and the story you're reading is about the beach, you can take them to the beach virtually or show them videos of the beach or talk about it. So the opportunities that tech allows for all students creates more equity in your classroom and helps build that background knowledge and support each individual child. Okay, so differentiation comes in many different forms. Accessibility features would be one. This is primarily for Apple devices. At least the tutorials I'm going to show are for Apple devices. I'm a big advocate for Apple devices, but if you are using Microsoft, there are similar features such as this. You just have to seek them out. Then accommodations, what we can do in the classroom to accommodate our learners' different needs, visual supports for ELs, English language learners, as well as our struggling readers, remediation and intervention, and then extending and enriching. All of these are possible because of technology. Okay, so diving into Apple's accessibility features, easy for me to say. Technology is simply amazing. These are two ways that I can show you that. The first is with the accessibility feature of spoken content. It supports English language learners and struggling readers' language development by reading the words to them and highlighting the text as it goes. This can be used anywhere within the device. I will say sometimes it's a little robotic and glitchy, but it's better than nothing. So I'm going to show you right here. Let's say a student really wanted to read it
they could use the spoken content feature. So they would press the navigation and then they would press play.
Veterans Day, November 11th, 1918 was an important day fighting in world.
Okay, so I realize that that is really small for you guys to see, but it is highlighting the text as it goes, and that's what I find really, really valuable. And then also to talk about screen time and the effect that it has on our developing little's brains. In blue light alone, we saw in distance learning the trend of having blue light glasses and all of that. But with 5 and 6 year olds, glasses may be cool for a minute, but the maintenance of like having them put on their glasses, take them off, not break them, what have you, can be a nightmare. So this hack in the accessibility features allows for you to limit the blue light that's being emitted from the screens, and I just keep it on all the time. So again, this is going to be really small for you. I'll have to post it again somewhere else. Let me make this bigger. So I'll talk you through it. Hopefully you can see it. Okay. So you'll go into your settings and display and brightness. And then in display and brightness, you'll click night shift and schedule night shift. And rather than it being from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., change the schedule to 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. So the whole period in which the students are using their devices at school, it has more of a warmer light hue, removing that blue light exposure. And something you don't really think about, but now in the technology age, it is something to think about. So that is a great tip. Now I'm going to move on to the next page, and I'm going to show you how to turn.
You're going to go to accessibility.
I'm going to show you how to turn on the spoken content.
And you're not going to go to voiceover. You're going to go to spoken content. And I already have my spoken content on, but if it were off, it would look like this. You would want to turn on both speak selection and speak screen and turn on the controller. And that controller is going to be this little guy right here, and it can be dragged to any portion of this screen. And I will show you how students can use that in a minute. And then turn highlight content on so that the words are being highlighted as they are being read to the student. You can also do sentences or words and sentences. It's your preference. And then you can also change the color.
Okay, so that is one way to go about turning the spoken content on. Oops. Now we're going to move into different accommodations that you guys can do. Oh, let me fix my screen. Different accommodations that you guys can do in the classroom, similar to how you have always done it. And that's the beauty of intentional tech, is taking the way we have been teaching and simply translating it to extend it with technology. It's not a whole new way of teaching. So this is the same phonics board for all students, but each level of student has a different task. So this was something that the students would do in their center groups or their reading groups that were leveled. So each group, whatever their names were, say they were group 1 through 4, had a different task. They went to the same center. They were just required to do something different with the exact same activity. Again, it doesn't have to be fancy or formal. This is a picture of a piece of paper printed out. They took the picture and then they did whatever they were required to do. So depending on their level of reading development, they would either identify just the letters that they knew or letter sounds, identify the sight words that they knew, read 5 words, read 10 words, or read as many words as they know. And then you can see here that she will track as they go. And then you can also highlight or whatever, but you can see how she's, I think it's a she, is progressing throughout.
4 large,
nope,
none, only, put, round, heard, farm, car,
So you can see for this student, he was required to read 5 words. That was his accommodation for his level that he was at. He was able to work on the same worksheet activity that all other students in the class were doing. It's just his task was different. You can also hear the sound of centers in the background. Okay, so remediation.
Here's the number of the day. I think
I showed this video yesterday. It can be used in multiple different ways, but in this sense, it was an opportunity for the student, a peer, to reteach a struggling student what we were working on and what that does when one teaches to learn. So it reinforces the learning of the tutor as well.
I think you guys know this one. It's 3. So I moved 3 buttons in the 10 frame, 3 blocks in the base 10. Then
So an idea for this is you have this recording on Seesaw submitted via one student, the tutor, and you can send it out to the group that needs the help, and they can watch it, kind of like a flipped classroom idea, but instead of the teacher teaching, their peers teaching. And just think of how that ups the engagement and makes it more relatable for the students. Also, a lot of apps such as Prodigy Math adjust to the student's needs as they go. So they look at how the student is performing and then they adjust to what the student needs. So there's a lot of apps out there. I'm working on a list that I'll post to the page eventually, but this is an awesome feature of technology as well. Okay, moving into assessments. The data and clear demonstrations of learning are priceless. So when talking about the exposure to screen time, looking at the types of data and the growth that you could see, it really makes it worth it for the limited amount of screen time you will have in your classroom if you are implementing tech intentionally. Okay, so y'all are teachers. I don't need to teach this to you, but I'm going to cover formative and summative assessments in my examples right now. And personally, my belief is I get so much more value out of formative assessments throughout the week, throughout the month, throughout the year, as compared to summative assessments. But technology can amplify both. Okay, so formative assessments come in many different forms. They could be through games like the Kahoot app or website, creative projects, visual demonstrations like graphs or videos, self-evaluations. I like to do this a lot and have the student evaluate, look at their work, and go back and grade it, and then exit tickets. Do this, not that. The way in which we correct a student matters. In talking about formative assessment, do not correct every assignment that a student turns in on Seesaw. Some simply just get approved and they get stored for documentation. I also have this conversation with the parents that they're going to see things come in that are not completely correct or corrected. That opens up the dialogue at home for them to talk about it with their student. And then it also opens up the dialogue to encourage the student to reflect on their growth over time or evaluate. Let's look at this. Let's listen to this. What do you think could have been better? Or what do you think is wrong there? And let them catch their mistakes because that's how they're truly going to grow. So according to John Dewey, students do not learn from experiences themselves. Students learn from reflecting on those experiences. Formative assessment. Students completed these reading activities every week. I talked about them yesterday. It was a center activity. And the directions and format remain exactly the same. And this provides a much clearer measure of growth compared to formative assessments without tech because we're able to compare, and you'll see in a minute, side by side the growth. So I'll skip that video. Comparing apples to apples. So here's a record and read or a phonics board activity from September from a student, and then you can look at the same activity, different words in May, and hear how the student grows. Now, I don't think these examples are the same students, so kind of mute point, but you get the idea.
Kit, kit, sit. Ow. How?
So you see that when you're taking two exact same activities and comparing across, the students did this every week, how valuable that information can be for grades, for student growth, but also for things like SSTs or IEP meetings, reaching their goals, documenting their goals. With a click of a button, you can recall that data. All right, summative assessments come in many different forms as well. Unit projects, unit tests, student portfolios, standardized tests. Now, leaving opinions and politics out of it, I'm going to highlight unit projects because I believe that it provides more opportunity for students to demonstrate their learning when they're not so stifled into the box, the traditional box of summative assessments.
A life cycle of a.
Okay, so summative students completed a writing project based on the life cycle of a frog. To demonstrate their learning and understanding of the unit, they then created a directed draw and read their writing project through an app called Chatterpix, which makes their writing their picture come to life, and then turned it into Seesaw. And that's what this looks like.
A frog. First, it starts as an egg, then it goes into a tadpole, then it has legs, and then it comes into a tadpole, and then it turns into a frog.
So you can also see that or not also, but they can make their mouths a lot bigger, so it makes it look more animated. But it's a really cool feature. It's free. The kids love it. And it's a nice routine to follow for summative, like thematic units, always knowing that they're going to finish with their writing, then a directed draw, and then they get to bring it to life on Chatterpix. Ups that engagement factor as well. So we call that app smashing. App smashing is a kind of new-ish term coined by ed tech educators, and it's the process of taking multiple apps that can integrate with each other and creating a final project. So in this example, the two apps specifically, or the pieces of technology that we app smashed, were Chatterpix and Seesaw. You could even possibly consider YouTube because we did a directed draw through ArtHub, but you put those two together and submit it on Seesaw, and it produces this final product. So same thing, the steps in this one are an Apple unit, a writing assignment, directed draw, Chatterpix, Seesaw. So you can see the same 5 steps, different unit.
Johnny Appleseed went across the land to plant apples and give other people food and share his clothes. A life cycle of a.
So you can see that not only are they wonderful to look through, and the parents love them as well, but the students really love making them, and they really show the understanding of the student. I'd much rather have that than, just a pen and paper assessment. They're still there. Those still exist. Those still are necessary. But these are some fun takes on other types of summative assessments. So ultimately, streamlining with technology to give students more control and autonomy over their work and their own learning is magical. You will be amazed once you kind of let go of some of the control, what they are capable of producing. On another note, well, back to that. Going back to the accommodations, something I didn't cover is for students with things like autism, the ability to produce or voice their knowledge in different formats, whether it be writing, typing, through picture, through video, through voice recording, really opens up that door for them to not be on the spot and have that social pressure, and really gives them the opportunity to demonstrate their learning in a more authentic manner. So that's something to keep in mind as well. All right, so we are at the end of today's session. Tomorrow, we're going to dive into the intentional tech framework. I've been going over all of these different kind of aspects of what intentional tech is, but tomorrow we're going to talk a little bit more about how do you get there? What steps do you take to make sure that what you are doing in your classroom is for the benefit of the kids and has purpose behind it, rather than just using the technology because it's there or because we have to. And again, we have dabbled in the framework, but what we are looking for in everything that we do in the classroom, tech or not, is making sure that it is efficient, effective, engaging, and enriching for our kids. And if you are ready to embrace tech, make sure to download the Intentional Tech Roadmap. It is a kind of summative resource of all of the things that I've been going over this week, has links to different products and apps that I recommend, has example videos, is a great way to connect and kind of resource to have on your side when looking at integrating tech with your little learners. I'll post the link in the comments, but it is, let's see. It's bit.ly.com/intentional tech. And I'm really excited because it is the foundation of a course that is opening up enrollment tomorrow, where I dive into the nitty-gritty bits and pieces of all the things I don't have time to cover in this workshop. And I look forward to connecting with so many amazing educators. And as always, remember that technology is a tool and not a toy. I hope you guys have a great night, and I'll see you for our last session, same time and place tomorrow. Bye, guys.